Hello, I'm Dr. Francis Yahia, and I wanted to talk to you briefly about what astrology is really about. Astrology has really become a buzzword and is actually somewhat the religion of the age of Aquarius that has recently begun with COVID. So there's a lot of buzz, there's a lot of videos, there's a lot of content online. However, most of the stuff that's out there is a somewhat superficial and doesn't give the reality of what the chart is about. In my personal opinion, having studied most of the spiritual philosophies, sacred texts, the best personal development tool is indeed astrology. And so let's know what it really is about. Another issue that's arising with the new age and spiritual philosophy that's available these days is that there's an emphasis on the light. There's an emphasis on the positive. There's an emphasis on this law of attraction, of thinking positively. And that is the antithesis of what astrology is really about. Astrology is about understanding who you really are, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Understanding that throughout life, your one thread, your one theme, your one thought, your one essence, you're going to try it out on with all these different archetypes, with all these different planets, with all these different cycles, with all these different versions of yourself, so that you can indeed become the most complete and integrated version of yourself. So if we piecemeal a chart by saying, Venus is in the second or Jupiter's in the seventh, those are some nuggets about who you might be and ways that you might show up in the world, but they really miss the meaning of what the chart and what astrology is really about. First thing about astrology, there is one thread. You have one thread woven throughout your life. It is your essence. It is your soul's journey. It could never be separated from you in your existence unless you die. Sun, moon, and ascendant are the best ways to find that. The rest of the chart supports the sun, moon, and ascendant. If you know mythology, you can know astrology inside out. If you know the myths associated with your sun, your moon, and ascendant, that's the best and quickest and easiest way to know exactly what you're about and what you're here to learn. The chart through transits, the chart through aspects are going to show you areas that you need to integrate so that you can be the sort of wholeness of that theme, of that thread, of that myth in this lifetime. How do we do this? Spirituality is all about the shadow. Spirituality, astrology, all spiritual literature is about the war going on in your head. So the astrology chart is you on a piece of paper. It is a snapshot, what I call your psychological x-ray of what's going on in your head. We all have the same physical organs. We indeed all have the same psychological organs. The psychological organs are the archetypes or planets. So what is astrology really about? The astrology is all about knowing your lowest nature. Every single sign in the zodiac is represented by animals, your animal nature, your low-level consciousness, your deluded self, the ability that you think that you're more pure and holy than what you really are. Knowing yourself is all about understanding your animal, low-level, sinful, desirous nature. That is not a negative the way that a lot of religions have touted it to be. It is the answer of a lifetime. It is the way that you can then come and live out that chart in a high vibration, in a law of attraction, in knowing what you are attracting subconsciously, what you are about at the core, at the root, unraveling to that essence, and then building from that. The only signs that are not animals that have to do with the capacity to have consciousness and rational mind, which is what separates us from other animals, are the air signs. Gemini is the twins represented by two people. That is our dual nature. We have a divine nature and we have a human nature or an animal nature. You can never, ever, ever eradicate your animal or lower nature. It is impossible. There is no such thing as turning the other cheek in every situation, showing up as compassionate and kind, and never angry in every situation. That is denial and delusion. There is an appropriateness to use your lower nature, and there's an appropriate to use your higher nature. Gemini is about that understanding of which veil to use when. Libra is the scales. Libra is all about recognizing your slothful nature in terms of growth, in terms of spiritual growth, and understanding that you are only balanced as an individual when you understand your slothful, human, lazy nature of doing deeper inner work. Again, it is not a criticism, it is a reality of being human. And the highest vibration of the air signs in terms of esoteric astrology is Aquarius, which is the era that we have now ushered in with COVID, which is the age of Aquarius, and it is ruled by the water bearer. This is when, and here's the symbol here, this is when you understand your own thirst, when you understand your own human, earthly, low-level nature needs, then and only then can you be of service to another. Evolution happens not with the signs, but with the metaphor of understanding your dual nature in Gemini. Because that dual nature exists, integrating and balancing it is called the mystical marriage or the Heros Gamos within, unified consciousness with Libra. And then in Aquarius, a reminder that you indeed are both, and therefore holding space and service to another as they are figuring out their own lower nature. So you've got our animal consciousness and the way to target and grow through the animal consciousness. That is the point of astrology. The other exception that is not an animal is Virgo. Virgo is represented by the wheat, or the mother carrying a basket of wheat, or Ceres or Demeter, that are the goddesses of the grain of the territory that is land that is there to be planted. What this represents is that it is only the wheat, the body, the earthly being, in which we can be impregnated with the Holy Spirit, the divine, the universal consciousness. It is through understanding the earthly lower nature that we are indeed animals, that something can be birthed. Bypassing the lower nature, the animal nature, the shadow, the darkness will never lead to enlightenment. The other thing that wheat represents, and for those that listen or pay attention to myth and metaphor, Jesus being resemblant of both the divine and the human, and that's what he was representing to us, not from a Christian perspective, but from a story or narrative or mythology perspective. He was teaching us that through the common way, through the humanness of embodiment with a body and the flaws of that, the darkness, the lower nature, that is how the divine essence, the seed of the divine, is then evolved through us and in our lifetime. He was born in Bethlehem. Bethlehem means the town of wheat or the town of bread. The most common bread or grain of the day was wheat. Therefore, be common, be ordinary. Only when you understand your ordinary, animal, lower, delusional, betrayal, self-deceiving nature will you then be able to express and have an original essence. You must know your animal nature. That is the purpose of astrology. You must know your mind. That is the purpose of astrology, that you see with the aspects, the areas of yourself that are self-destructive, self-betraying, versus those areas of you that are strong coping skills, that are positive aspects. And know that you are dual. In a nutshell, you are divine and you are earthly. And it is the integration of both that then allows you to seek enlightenment and serve in the world. Thank you.